Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Wrestling Challenge Review Series 4. On this particular occasion, it is the 23rd of July, 1989. Still 1989, my favorite year. Please like, subscribe, comment below. We've got almost 1,100 audios. We'll have 1,100 by the end of the day today for you to check out. Old school stuff, new school stuff, just about as much wrestling as we can gather for you. Anyway, this is a brilliant time to be a fan if you're a kid. Anyway, obviously not targeted towards the I should say your upper teens to 20s audience. This is certainly marketed towards kids, but at the time, 84 through 90, I don't know, 96. That whole area was marketed to kids. So at least for WWF fans. So I mean, it's a different thing. But what's interesting is it leaves an impression on you as a kid who grew up in the era more so than the average, wrestling would today. I can't even imagine, talking to a kid who grew up as a fan of the last, let's say, 10 years from now. What do they remember? Like what's really meaningful to them? Um, to me, that would be really interesting to kind of investigate is the meaningful nature of are there angles or stories that connect with a, you know, 7 to 12-year-old kid now the way that things did when kids were younger, even generations before mine. In any event, though, this is by far a interesting time as Hulk Hogan has been plugging the No Holds Barred movie, which came out right at the beginning of in the beginning of summer. So this movie's probably been out for maybe 2 months at most. Honky Tonk Man and Jimmy Hart with Jimmy Hart doing an enhancement match here. Honky Tonk Man kind of in between feuds here. Obviously dropping the Intercontinental title in August of '88 and moving into the beginning of '89. Doesn't really have much to do. He had just started the feud with Jimmy Snuka, laying him out within the last month or so on the Brother Love show with the guitar. So that's kind of where he's going. Although that's a down the card kind of thing for Honky, at least in theory. Although he's main eventing the C shows, so I guess that's better than being lower card on a B show. One would assume. Anyway, the enhancement talent goes to work on his arm. Honky comes back on the kid, cuts him off. Eye rakes, boots, kicks, punches. Really basic stuff. Nothing to write home about, but it gets done. Jimmy Hart on the outside with the megaphone, of course, always wearing appropriate gear to support his talents. So one of the many things I love about Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart still, I think, would be out there if not for the pandemic. I don't know that he'd ever retire by choice. Um, Honky hooks him up, shake, rattle, and roll. 1, 2, 3, and away we go. Basic stuff there, and Honky Tonk Man has every reason to be, happy and whatever. The report, the update area, they hype matches for the upcoming SummerSlam. SummerSlam about a month away, just over a month away. Rockers up next in a tag team match. Rockers here, probably right on the verge, if not right on top of the layout by the Rougeau brothers of Shawn Michaels with the megaphone. I think that probably happened in May or June, so that's probably at least a month or two old by this point. But that's the time frame we're in. Rockers and Rougeaus having a good run. Had a chance to go and didn't get to go. See the Rockers and Rougeaus in a marathon 60-minute match in Boston, but my ride fell through. Would have loved to have seen that. I don't think child me would have appreciated it. I know that, you know, certainly when I was in the business and as I was getting in, I would have appreciated it just from a work rate standpoint. But anyway, Rockers in an enhancement match here. Obviously they're not going to. They do more than most teams. They were kind of the Rock and Roll Express of the WWF at the time. in terms of being baby faces who bumped all over the place when necessary, but at the same time didn't do anything so terribly weird or over the top that it didn't make sense. Power slam by Michaels. Michaels even here moving like he was going to be somebody someday, even all the way back in 1989. I don't know that he didn't start that in the AWA in 86, 87. Tag off to Jannetty, who hits a neckbreaker, swinging neckbreaker style maneuver. Enhancement talent takes Jannetty back to his corner. They do a tag off. Doesn't really mean much because obviously it's enhancement. They do another quick tag, do the rockers. Rockers and double team maneuvers, so very, very valuable here around this time. Rockers do the through the legs, spotting a double drop kick, and obviously the rockers stay on the legal man. Jannetty takes over back again legally and goes to tags off to Michaels. Michaels comes in via the top rope, and Jannetty stays in. They do the double fist drop, 1, 2, 3, and away we go. Rockers victorious, not a big surprise there. Dusty Rhodes doing the vignettes at the time. He is working on a vehicle. He spit shines a window, changes oil, checks the gas, and does all that. And the lady says, "Hey, ain't you Dusty Rhodes?" Actually, the graphic for Dusty Rhodes pops up. We do not see him actually say, or her actually say, "Are you Dusty Rhodes?" The graphic with his name pops up. Barry Windham, the Widowmaker, up next. Barry's run in the WWF, probably for me one of the most disappointing things. Of course, his father and his brother get nailed for the making of counterfeit money at the end of '89. That takes Barry out of action, I think, to '91 when he returns to what then is WCW. But I really wish more had been done with Barry, but obviously life gets in the way. Barry, probably at this time, 87 through 89, in the best shape of his life, having the most upside. He can nail a quick arm drag and some quick moves, but also known for the power moves. Really dominant of the enhancement talent here, body slams, and eventually, I think he's the first guy I ever see do a superplex. We see a lariat, see the superplex. That is known as the Widowmaker. Then we go to the event center. A Ted DiBiase promo. He's kind of plugging, wanting to get even with, I think this was a Superfly Jimmy Snuka promo here in 1989 summer, because he's going to face Snuka at SummerSlam, which struck me as an odd match, but I think it was more, let's get that going. Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan are your main event for what I believe is a Tennessee show that they're doing here. Maybe, let's see. The hype for the show is Nassau Coliseum in Municipal Auditorium. Hogan basically says he's hanging and banging with Elizabeth, which I think is what Savage was worried about, but in a whole different way. And basically says he's going to continue to be your world champion. Haku, yet another Haku match, and those are always intense. Haku with Bobby Heenan, of course, member of the Heenan family, back from his turn when he was with the Islanders. Brian, Mr. Weiss is his opponent. Obviously, Haku doesn't need help to beat just about anybody. Heenan kind of talks about the return of the crown. Duggan is your king at the moment in the summer here. Punch kick, back chops, nerve holds, and a back kick by Haku. Haku, nice enough to give the guy a couple of shots, but nothing major. Then we go to a Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake promo. They're hyping the SummerSlam match. SummerSlam going to be Beefcake and Hogan against Zeus and Savage. Right around this time is the announcement of same. And obviously they're talking about Zeus being an intimidating guy, but them being a more powerful force. Ultimate Warrior against Scott Colton up next. Actually, Scott Colton might not be the gentleman's name, and I thought it was a Scott Colton, but different name here. Anyway, Warrior, jump starts the match, drapes the guy's neck over the top rope. We're about a month and a half away here from SummerSlam, which means Rick Rude is on the collision course with the Warrior still. Of course, they've been embroiled in something since right around the Royal Rumble, if not at the Royal Rumble, with the blinding of the Warrior. And they have a run that lasts all the way through SummerSlam. And so think about that, like an 8-month run. Anyway, 8 months with the Warrior, probably not on Rick Rude's Christmas card idea list. But Warrior hits a couple shoulder tackles and then goes to the top rope in a hurry. He hits a double axe handle, and the Warrior, it's so interesting. A guy who just can't even stay on his feet after those type of moves. Warrior gets on the second turnbuckle on the inside, mocking things and basically saying he wants the championship, throws the man to the outside, eventually throws him back in, press slam later after a couple of tackles and some clotheslines, and the Warrior carries the man over his shoulder back to the locker room. Then we see an interview for the upcoming six-man tag at SummerSlam. Bossman, Akeem, the African Dream, and Andre the Giant, put together by two managers, of course, Slick and Bobby Heenan. Over 1,500 pounds, Heenan says, 3/4 of a ton for this trio. Probably the biggest trio ever in the history of wrestling. And that is a trio you'd actually care. It's not Kenny Omega and the Lucha Brothers or something like that. This is a team that actually looks like they could do some damage. Anyway, we kind of go to a more competitive match, although I only say more because it's not really that competitive. Rick Martel, who had turned on Tito Santana about 2.5 months before at WrestleMania 5, does an inset promo while Santana wrestles with Boris Zukov, one half of the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks do come back together in time for WrestleMania 6 in 1990, so that's why I say one half of the Bolsheviks are still doing their thing. Arm bars by Santana, a couple of drop kicks under the chin, and Zukov backs off into the corner. He does not want that fight to go too much longer in the way of Santana. Let me get my phone, and we'll be back in a few moments right after this. And again, more than anything, matches like this are there to kind of push Santana forward a little bit, in that he's kind of been around since '84, so him not being as prominent is a thing, but the Rick Rude feud, which really runs almost for, I wouldn't say a year, but close to it, is a pretty big thing. Zukov does get a modified slam, gets a couple of moves off on Santana. Santana does fire back and kind of get out of the way. Zukov posts himself on the, I guess, on the ring post and that kind of thing. Santana is a guy that you could throw in through him leaving in 1993. You could throw him into almost any match and you'd get something above average to above average. In any event, he hits the flying forearm, gets the victory there, and in the end, Randy Savage does the plugging for Zeus with the upcoming SummerSlam match. Basically says they're going to destroy Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. Savage refers Sherry to having the secret ingredient in the magic cauldron, and they're hyping the heck out of this SummerSlam deal. George Skolland, which is the son of Arnold Skolland, who is a longtime WWF backstage talent and the manager of Bob Backlund, and Chuck Williams, who later becomes the Rocking Rebel in Pennsylvania Independence and ECW fame, are the adversaries for the Powers of Pain here in this particular final endeavor. of the day. And so, Barbarian hits several strikes, punches, kicks, forearms, and the like. Nothing worth necessarily writing home about, but at the same time, pretty intense stuff. Um, Comes up with a hard clothesline, does the Barbarian. Barbarian manages to get as many, I don't know, almost like a modified power slam. They do the elevated clothesline tackle thing, do the powers of pain, and away we go into another win for them. We kind of see an event center with the same powers of pain. Fuji not happy that the Rockers are going to be facing off against them with Ronnie Garvin as the referee. Fuji not happy about that. And then we move to King Duggan talking about giving a shot at the crown to Rick Rude, the King's crown. But he says that Rude doesn't have to put the Intercontinental belt on the line, almost insinuating that Rude is a coward. And that'll close us for today. As mentioned, we have nearly 1,100 audios for you to choose from, all eras. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.